Some of you I know and many of you I don't. So allow me to introduce myself. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Erin Brockovich, not Julia Roberts. That's my joke. It amazes me after the film came out how many people were confused by that. I mean, one day I'm walking down a street and someone comes up and says, "Oh my gosh, I loved your film and I use your Thigh Master all the time." I'll be in a grocery store and they'll see my ID and they'll go, "You're Erin Brockovich, that's the name of a film." I go, "Well, I'm the real one." They're like, "No, there isn't a real person, it's just a film." I could share stories with you forever about that. Being in the ladies' restroom, you know, brushing my hair or doing something and exchanging glances, and someone's like, "Didn't anyone ever tell you you look like Erin Brockovich?" I just laugh. I go, "No, but I've been told I look like Julia Roberts." And then she just laughs. So anyway, it's been a really bizarre and strange situation, but it's really a pleasure for me to be here today. And most of you probably know me from the film Erin Brockovich and the chromium-6 contamination out in Hinckley, California. You know, it's very difficult for me to, I go to events and I don't want to just talk science or those kind of things with you. Sometimes I get lost in that. I'd really rather share with you today my perspective of what goes on in communities and what we as people can do about it. We're always going to have the fight of science, but for me, a lot of common sense came into play when I began my work out in Hinckley, California in 1991. I was born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas, and can you hear me okay? Yes? Oh shit, I don't have to re-say everything, do I? Okay, let me start from the beginning. No, don't. Y'all heard me though, right? Okay. So I began my work out in Hinckley, California in 1991. And I didn't know it at the time, but my fascination with what was going on was something that was deep inside of me. And it was the way I was raised. And it came from my parents. And it came from living in Kansas. And it came from being taught that the greatest gifts we have isn't how much money you have in the bank. It's your water. It's your land. It's the air you breathe. It's your health, and it's your family. My father is an engineer. He actually worked for many years for Texaco. He used to sing me songs when I was a child about water and how important water was. My father, before he passed away, promised me in my lifetime that water would become a commodity, and I believe he's going to be right. My mom was a journalist, so I have a real Snoopy side from her. She's also a sociology major, and she had great appreciation for people. So all of those things, unbeknownst to me, started to work for me when I began my work out in Hinckley, California. Everyone told me I couldn't do what I was doing. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't a scientist. I wasn't a politician. I didn't study mass torts. But I don't think you have to be anything other than a compassionate, caring individual with integrity and respect and appreciation for what we have. And any one of us, when we realize the power of those qualities, we can get involved. We can get involved in anything. I was out in Hinckley, and the first thing that I noticed was, frankly, the water was green. I was like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore, because I had never seen green water. Nobody believed me, but we all now know hexavalent chromium in water is green. The higher the concentration, it turns dark. I've seen it at 24 parts per million, and it's deep purple. I saw animals and fish with two heads. Now, I didn't need to be a scientist to say, okay, I do not think green water and two-headed fish are the standard. Something has to be wrong. I used a lot of my observations. The trees were dying. Wildlife was missing. The water was a funny color. cows shouldn't be covered in tumors. And I thought, what is going on out here? I began to get to know the people, and I listened to the stories and the illnesses that they were experiencing. And none of it made any sense to me. They lived out in the middle of nowhere. This was supposed to be a pristine, safe environment. So it dawned on me that there had to be something in common that was affecting the wildlife, that was affecting the trees, that was affecting the people. And the irony in all of this was water. Water, the single most necessary element to sustain life, was now killing everything. It was the water. And that's where I began. That's where I began my search out at the famous water board, Lahontan, and I started finding documents. And that's where I began to really become frustrated. And another lesson I learned from my father, and that was about honesty. So many of our problems begin with a teeny little seed of deception. It can be for many reasons, but I'm telling you, that's where the problem starts.